Welcome to the Wraith YouTube channel. My name's Deke, and I'm just chilling here in my purple flying machine. That's right, let me solo him. We beat Zekvir on tier 2. I did use a Ret Paladin, which may seem blasphemous considering that I'm a Prot Warrior main, but I needed a DPS in order to beat him. You just can't get the eggs down with Prot Warrior. Of the alts I had available to me, I thought that the Paladin had the best toolkit to deal with Zekvir's abilities. We'll get into all that. I'm going to run the entire fight, and I'll give commentary over it as we go and kind of talk through the fight. My Pally is 610 eye level. I played Herald of the Sun, and my Brand Bronzebeard is level 55. I played him as a healer with the Porcelain Arrowhead and the Amorphous Relic, and you can see I have a 2-piece set bonus on this Paladin, so that's what I had going into this thing. This fight is extremely difficult. This is definitely the hardest thing that I've ever done in World of Warcraft as a solo player. I remember the Black Harvest Warlock Green Fire quest being extremely difficult, and that was quite challenging at the time. I think this is 10 times harder than that fight. Now, I've seen some people on the internet getting this down, but a lot of these people have, 620, 625 eye level, which I think makes it a lot easier. I was only able to hold about 500k DPS on this, overall. I've seen people that can hold 1,000,000 DPS while they're fighting this, but you need to have in that like 620 plus range gear really to do that. I tried a lot of different specs on this. I tried Fury Warrior, I tried Monk, Windwalker. I also tried playing Bran as a DPS, but for me, I found that anytime Bran was DPS and not heals, he would sometimes pull the aggro away from me, which would actually make it so that when I ran to kill the cocoons, Zekvir's Cone Blast was so big that it was really hard to get out of it as a melee character. So, I've seen mages do it where they can just easily blink across the room, and that is pretty easy to dodge that cone, but if you're very far away from the Cone Blast when you're trying to kill the egg, it's super hard to dodge that. Aside from all the mechanics that you have to do in this fight, especially in Phase 2, which is different from the single question mark version of the fight, the biggest challenge with melee specifically is the melee damage that you're taking. Zekvir can hit you for nearly 5 million just with a critical hit. So you do have to have some ability to keep yourself alive. So obviously Paladin's good for that because you can hit yourself with Word of Glory. And in Phase 2, you'll actually see this here in a little bit. I actually made a macro to heal Bran because Bran is really bad. He stands in everything. So in Phase 2, when all the spikes are coming out of the ground, Bran would die. I kept getting this fight to like 30, 20%, and every time Bran would die, it just became exponentially harder. So my approach to this was keeping Bran alive. So that proves like another challenge, but yeah, I just made a macro so that I could easily Word of Glory Bran during the floor spike phase, and that actually worked really well for me. So something that's kind of happening in this is you really want Zekvir to target Bran often with his Cone Blast. Now that's random, you can't really control that, but that is something that you want to happen so that you have a little bit more freedom while you're DPSing the cocoon. So keeping him alive in Phase 2 really helps with that because there's so many mechanics going on at the same time. You really don't want to have to deal with that cone on you every single time, not to mention you need some of those potions out just to pick up health in between melee attacks to keep yourself alive. I've heard people saying that this is a super easy fight. I found this to be extremely challenging, and I tried it in all types of different ways with different characters and different setups, and this probably took me a total of like 5 or 6 hours over 3 play sessions. And what I found is, even when you're playing this exactly perfectly and you're doing everything right, there is an element of randomness where certain skills overlap in the wrong places. Or see like this dais in the back, the way there's steps that go up, there's some little pieces of the environment that you get stuck on. If things go wrong for you, there's really nothing you can do sometimes. So I doubt anybody's really one-shotting this fight unless you're just way, way, way over-geared. So I already have a video that describes all of the mechanics and what you need to do for Zekvir on the first question mark, the first tier. And that's basically Phase 1 of this fight. In Phase 2 of this fight, he gets a whole bunch of new abilities. And you can no longer interrupt Enfeebling Spittle because you need to be interrupting his Regenerative Carapace, which will basically heal him to full if you don't interrupt it. So you have to save your interrupt for his heal. So what you have to do for his Spittle is you have to use a movement skill to take it off of you, right? So Paladin has Blessing of Freedom, which is the perfect timeline for when you need this. You basically have it up every time he casts it, so you can get rid of that. If you don't get rid of that debuff on you, the Spittle debuff, you'll just die. I mean, you can heal through it, but it takes everything you've got to heal through it. So basically, you have to interrupt his heal, you have to do the egg, and then his fear now, you can see that there's these 4 little globules that are positioned around the circle of fear. Those shoot out in a direction, and if you get hit by those, they one-shot you. You can't tank one of those, you just die. Also, the fear itself now in this fight one-shots you. So if you get hit by, you can't even use like warrior berserker rage to just stand in it. If you get hit by it, you're dead. It one-shots you. He has these portals, as you can see here, that he's shooting out his web hook, and these portals also shoot out web hooks that pull you in and slow you. And the funny thing is even if you bubble, you still get slowed through all that stuff. So it's pretty crazy like how challenging this section of the fight is, because you're dealing with all of the phase 1 mechanics and all of the phase 2 mechanics at the same time. So see, watch these little balls come out. So they shoot out. If you get hit by those, you just instantly die. That was something that was getting me for a while because I just didn't realize they were a part of the mechanic, and I just didn't see them, honestly. But once I became aware of those balls, that really helped me figure out like what I needed to do, where I needed to be stand during the fear phase. And then in this phase with the spines, this is where I'm basically saving up my holy power, and I'm healing Bran basically this whole time, because he gets hit by that every single time, and he'll die. And he'll resurrect after a few seconds. I'm not sure how long it is, like 30 seconds maybe? And you can resurrect him too, but it's just too hectic to do that in this fight. So I found that just macroing and healing him with World of Glory through this phase really helped me a lot. And it does make my DPS slower, obviously. It takes me longer to do this fight than somebody that's doing, twice as much DPS. But just for the gear that I have and my skill level, at least on the Paladin, I needed to play a little bit more methodically and just be more mechanically intensive and focus less on trying to kill him fast. So I save Execution Sentence and Wake of Ashes for the Cocoon every time. I never burn these skills on Zekvir, ever. So they're always up because they have 30-second cooldowns, and you basically have around 30 seconds, maybe 35 seconds in between cocoons when he spawns them. So those 2 skills are what allow me to get the egg down every time on time. Now they did recently increase the amount of time that you have to kill those eggs. And quite honestly, this fight is pretty much undoable in the previous state it was in. This fight has been in a few different states. The first state it was in, there was a bug where Bran could just basically solo the dude for you, and a lot of people got this achievement early on in the first week because of that. They just cheesed it. It's not real. They don't deserve that win. And then they took that away, and the fight was kind of so hard that it was almost undoable because nobody could kill the cocoons. And now they've reduced the cocoon health a little bit, and they've increased the time you have to kill them, which makes it so that you actually can kill them. I would say that at my item level, this fight is overtuned. I think that it's too difficult with where it is. I feel like I did this fight perfectly in my first 2 hours of play. Like on the first day that I tried it, I did the fight perfectly like 3 or 4 times and still just was unable to get it down. Just based on these random things that were overlapping, or I would get melee crit and just die. So I think this fight is more tuned for like that 625-ish gear level, and it probably feels pretty good at that level to be like a still extremely challenging, you have to play perfectly kind of fight, but you just get through it faster. Instead of it being a 10-minute fight, it's probably like a 6 or 7 minute fight, which makes it a lot easier. and you're going to have a bigger health pool and stuff like that. So I think that gear score thing is really a big deal. So I think those people that are getting it down, you know, in this like 595 to 610 range, you know, I think it is really challenging, like super overtuned for this range. It was definitely frustrating for me at times, and I usually don't spend this amount of time working on something, but this is one achievement that I did really want to get. I've been on this journey to do everything delve related. This is delve related, and so I put the work in, and it paid off, and it was a lot of fun to do the fight. Even though it was super challenging, and like I said, it did get frustrating sometimes on some of the pulls where I just played super well. Not to mention I have the shittiest internet on the earth. I have Starlink, and I live out in the woods, and it would just randomly turn off when I'd have him at like 30% half the time. And that was not fun at all for me. But anyway, we did get him down here. And yeah, hunting the hunter and let me solo him. And then you get the purple dirigible void schematic, which is really cool. This was really fun. I'm going to just kind of quickly show my Herald of the Sun build here. I'm in no way a Paladin expert. I just really thought that the Paladin had the best toolkit to deal with Zekvir. And I did do a lot of iterations of changing my skills in this fight. I started with Templar, and I played Templar. I saw somebody on the internet had done it as Templar, and I just really didn't feel it. I thought Herald of the Sun outputted more DPS on the Cocoon. It was giving me more heals when I needed them. It was helping me because it gives you a heal over time from your Word of Glory. But I did iterate on these talent trees heavily as I was playing the fight, and those things really did make a difference. So I would say, you know, you can cop this spec if you want. I can put it in the description, but, you know, change talents around based on what you think would do well. Are you guys going to challenge Zekvir on the double question mark? Are you already giving it a try? What classes and specs are you using? I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. We'll see you in the next video. Later.